Welcome to Riding Counsel with Rich Jaffe, where the open road meets expert advice. I'm Richard Jaffe, an attorney and biking enthusiast, and this is the podcast where we dive into the world of motorcycling, safety, culture, charitable giving, and riding right. So, whether you're a seasoned rider or just getting started, let's talk bikes, the road, and everything in between. Let's ride! All right, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us on ridingcounsel.com podcast. My name is Rich Jaffe. I'm your host. I am a personal injury attorney, and I'm a motorcycle enthusiast, and I'm a podcaster. And I have a question for you out there. What do you do when somebody shows up after a car accident? They show up in your house, you're hurt, you don't know really what's going on, but this person comes to you maybe a day after your accident, and they say, look, I got this check for you. We're really sorry. Here's a check, and just sign these papers. And you don't know what the heck it is, but all you do is you want to put this all behind you. What do you do? So we're going to explore some of these things about what to do, because there's an important document in those things. It's called a release. And in order to help discuss what the legal ramifications of a release are, there is a host or a guest with us, and his name is Steve Cohen, and he happens to be my partner. And before I even get into this, I want everybody to please do me a favor. I need you to like this, subscribe, share it, hook a brother up, do me a solid, okay? And if you ever need to reach us, we're at ridingcounsel.com, ridingcounsel.com. But I want you to welcome my partner, my good friend, and his name is Steve Cohen. Welcome, Steve, to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
Okay, so just to remind everybody, just tell us a little bit about your background. Who are you? What do you do? Where do you do it?
I'm an attorney in Nassau County. I've been doing personal injury work. This is my 53rd year. Started all by myself. End up hiring you as a paralegal. Then as an attorney, and together we built a practice. We cover the 5 boroughs. We cover Nassau, Suffolk, upstate. Anywhere there's a problem, we're here to help.
Yeah, and we do a lot of motorcycle accident cases, which was the genesis of ridingcounsel.com. But let's start talking about this. When somebody shows up at a door, I mean, it's usually like what an adjuster or a lawyer.
Yeah.
Who's going to show up at your doorstep after you have a motorcycle accident?
I tell you, unfortunately, I've seen this on just way too many occasions where there's that famous knock at the door, and there's somebody from the insurance company magnanimously offering a pittance of what somebody should get, and have them sign the document. They know the people are in dire straits. They're hurting, they need money, they can't work, and they appear as this beacon of light to help them and give them what really amounts to an insignificant check. It shouldn't be allowed, but unfortunately it is. And as if somebody doesn't have counsel, an insurance carrier could speak to the individual without any repercussions. And there's a cardinal rule: never ever sign a document without legal counsel. Never.
Right. But people still do. A check, obviously everyone's going to know what a check is. I mean, that's why people are, they're eager to sign documents just to get the check. But what else do these people come with?
Well, they come with it's called a general release. And in essence, when you get through all of the legalese there, it says that I'm giving you this check and you're never, ever going to file a claim, sue the individual responsible, because that's who the insurance company represents. They represent the individual who caused the injury, who caused the accident. So that release is exactly what it says. You're releasing them from any and all responsibility forever. And it's a document that literally, it's a very significant legal document. and requires competent counsel to review before it's ever signed. In the instance you're talking about, it should never be signed because I
Right. So
guarantee
you know,
you
we're
it's never going to be
we're
adequate.
right. We're talking about a release and pretty much ending all your rights to sue. But you know, what's wrong with signing a release and getting a check? I mean, that sounds okay, but what are the pitfalls? What's the problem?
Well, let's take a look. You have an accident that somebody causes. Somebody cuts off. See, very often somebody will make a left turn in front of a motorcyclist. The cyclist has nowhere to go. Collision happens. Cyclist goes to the hospital. Maybe he has insurance. Maybe he doesn't have insurance. Bills mount up. He's got a broken arm, a broken leg. He's got road rash. He's got very significant injuries, and somebody comes in and says, "Here's a check for $1,500. Here's a check for $2,500. Here's a check for $5,000. Sign these papers." You're talking about cases that are worth, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times that amount of money. And once you sign that, what's going to happen with your medical bills? What's going to happen with your lost wages? What's going to happen with your injuries? You don't even know the full extent of your injuries by the time you're signing that release. So it should be absolute taboo. It can never ever benefit the injured party ever.
All right, so let's play this out a little bit, okay? So let's say somebody's in a motorcycle accident, and they don't have any fractures, right? And they just feel kind of sore. Their neck, their back hurts. Maybe their knee hurts a little bit, but there's no fractures. And the next day, somebody comes and says, "Hey, we're sorry about the accident, and we really didn't want this to happen. But in order to make things right, here's a check for $500 and sign the release."
Okay,
What?
let's examine that. Let's examine that exact fact pattern. You don't have fractures. You have sprains, strains, whatever you have. You may have damage to your bike. You've gone to the doctor. Maybe there's an emergency room. It's not super significant, but do you have insurance? If you were in an automobile, well, you'd have no fault insurance, which would pay it. But do you have private insurance that's going to pay these bills? Who's going to repair your bike? And whatever pain and suffering you sustain, is that a proper compensation? $500 for everything? The answer is clearly no. This is almost like a no-brainer, if you will.
All right, so let's say they sign, they take the check, right, and they say, because I need money now. My rent is due, and I need this money. But then a month down the line, they find out that they have some real problems in their neck. They have a disc herniation or something like that probably didn't show up in the hospital because the hospital is not really looking for that. They just take x-rays and see if there's a fracture. Now, a month later, you're like, you find out that you have this problem here, this herniation that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. But you took the check and you signed the release. What happens now?
You got a problem. You got a big problem, and that's the whole point. You didn't bother to get a legal opinion. You didn't bother to speak to an attorney who does this kind of work to advise you what to do. You've taken it on your own. You've signed this release, and in essence, you've given up all rights for the future. That's why you just don't do that.
All right. Well, let me tell you a story. Well, it actually happened to a real client, but we're not going to say the names or anything to just keep confidence. But a motorcycle accident happened, and the insurance company approached the client, and they said, "Look, we're gonna have you sign this. It looks like your motorcycle was pretty banged up. There was a few $1,000s at least damage to the motorcycle." And they say, "Okay, well, here, just you sign this check and sign the release for the damage to your motorcycle." Are you guessing what could happen in that kind of situation?
Oh yeah, I'm guessing.
Okay.
I'm guessing the general release doesn't specify that it's solely for the property damage, and if that's the case, you've just signed a general release for anything and everything. So unless that general release specifies that it's solely for the damage to your bike, you got you got a problem because you got nowhere to go for your bills. You got nowhere to go for your injuries. Again, it's something that, any competent attorney would advise not to sign.
And these releases, what I hear from clients at least is that the insurance company will come and say, it's a standard release. It's a standard release. What the heck is a standard release?
It's standard for the carrier. That's what it's standard for. It's standard to benefit the carrier. They get out so cheaply because they're approaching somebody immediately after an accident who's dealing with the moment. That's all they're dealing with is the moment. I had an accident, my bike's damaged, I'm hurt, whether it's I'm not hurt drastically because I can converse with you and give me the quick buck. The general release will only help the carrier because that's the one being released. The defendant, whoever caused the accident, who is insured by the carrier. There's no benefit at all to the injured party.
Another thing I hear a lot is from clients is that, I didn't know it was released because the insurance company kept calling it a settlement agreement. Now, I thought that these two things are different, but maybe I'm wrong. So is there a difference between a settlement agreement and a release?
Well, a settlement agreement, which is it's rare to see, to be honest with you, but a settlement agreement sets forth the terms of what a settlement will be. We agree to receive this much money in return for X amount of dollars. The release is the finalization of that quote agreement. So in 99 out of 100 cases, when a case is agreed, a settlement has been reached between the parties, it goes right to a release. The release is the release of all further obligations from now till the end of time. And that's a long time till the end of time.
Well, I mean, it seems like it's common sense, but I guess with everything going on, your bike is destroyed and you're hurting and all the people around you are trying to take care of you, that sometimes people sign this. How often do you get calls that from people that say, look, I'm really hurt. I was hurt in this accident. It was the other guy's fault, but I signed this release. Now what do I do? Like, do you get those calls?
We do get those calls. In very rare instances, we bring on a motion before the court. We start an action and they'll plead release as a complete defense because after all, you signed a release. And then we're explaining to the court how this release is so outrageous and it was brought on at a time without counsel, without understanding the full impact. And when the injuries are obvious, I mean, let's just say you have a shattered leg. You can't work and somebody comes into you and here's a check for $2,000. Well, that $2,000 may seem very, very big at that particular moment because, as you say, you have rent due. But the actual injury in any court is so much more than that. Maybe it's worth $50,000. Maybe it's worth $100,000. Maybe it's worth $200,000 or more. In those instances, a court may take a look and say, no counsel reviewed. The person was under emotional stress, pain. Carrier walks in. Can it be set aside? Yeah, it can. But why go through that? Why go through the chance that the judge is just going to say you're an adult, you read the document, you signed it, case is over? Why go through that? Just
I also get a lot of these kinds of calls, and it's kind of crazy what insurance carriers will come up to you and say, and to try to really trick you into signing these things. I mean, the bottom line is don't sign it, but I really want to hear from people out there. Look, first of all, don't sign any documents without having a lawyer. Okay, don't do it. Don't even talk to anybody without a lawyer, especially the insurance carrier who always wants to record your statements. But I want to hear from people out there. Has this happened to you? Have you been in an accident and insurance companies show up and they try to get you to sign things. And if so, I want you to comment below, anybody who's listening to YouTube, because I respond to all comments. And if not, I want you to give me a call, and I want to hear from you as to how it happened, because it helps me prep clients who come to me and other people. And I make podcasts about it, trying to warn people, to give you information so you can watch out for these things and you don't hurt your own case. Because a lot of times, and it's unfortunate, but clients are their own worst enemy. So please, the consultation is free. Okay, you can call me, you can call Steve. Okay, and I'm going to put the information down here and for YouTube. But for anybody listening, all you got to do is go to your phone and type in ridingcounsel.com, ridingcounsel.com. And there's a click to call button right on the screen. Click it. I'm going to be on the other end of the phone, or my partner Steve will be on the other end of the phone, and you can ask any questions, and that's free. It's free. There's no.
Right. Let me just go piggyback a point you made. Just made an excellent point that I want the listeners to understand. When a carrier calls or is knocking at the door, the simplest thing you can do in a nice, courteous way is say, I have an attorney. Whether you have one at that moment or not, the fact that you tell them that you have an attorney, they will no longer speak to you, because then you're dealing with a major ethical issue if they do. So I think that's a really good point. Don't get into a confrontation. Just simply say, I have an attorney.
Yeah, and it's a free. It's a lot of times it's a free call, but I mean, on your cell phone, you pay a monthly bill, so you're not going to really pay for the call. You don't pay for the consultation, right? It's just asking questions and getting information. And so I think the more information we get out there to the public, the better off that they're going to be if they are in an accident and they have to, they have to recover from their injuries as a result of somebody else's negligence. So do me a favor, people, call.
I think another interesting point is to try to understand that the carrier, the insurance carrier, and their representative, they're trying to do what's in the best interest of the individual who caused the accident. They're not your friend. They're not trying to assist you. Giving you some minimal check is not really for your benefit. It's for their benefit, to close the file, to stop all future proceedings. That's what it's for. And you have to understand who's on your side and who's not.
Well, I'd also go even further than that. If they're actually showing up at your door and trying to get you to sign something, that's probably a pretty good indication that they're scared and they want to get a release signed to cut off all your rights and benefits, so they're not sued. So it's probably a pretty good indicator that you really should be calling a lawyer for your case.
You should also not just sign a check alone if it doesn't have a release, because the back of that check may have language where you sign in the form of a release. So just call an attorney.
Yeah. So you really got to be careful about releases. So have you seen any situations where somebody is talking on the phone and English is not even their first language, where they get themselves in trouble because the release is presented, or maybe they're talking on the phone and all of a sudden the signature appears on a release and they try to sue because they say they're hurt and there's some sort of misunderstanding? You ever run into that kind of situation?
Yes, I have. Unfortunately, it's much more common than you would think. People who are, as you say, have a first language and English is a second language, what they can understand is the check. There's no possibility they can understand what the release means. Most people, lay people who are not lawyers, have trouble when they read and write English clearly. They still have a problem understanding the legal aspect of a release. Somebody who it's their second language, they stand no chance of understanding what they're doing there relative to giving up their rights. Again, so it's a thing to do.
We're talking a lot about rights, and Obviously the right to get more money is one of the rights that are given up by signing a release. Maybe we should talk about any of the rights that people might be giving up by signing a release. They really have to understand this, and it really has to be explained by a lawyer. So, there's lots of rights that are affected. One I could think of is a right to have your case heard by a jury. That's out the window once you sign a release.
Right to have your case heard by simply a judge at a bench trial. You've given up that.
Right.
The right to see anything, you've given up.
Yeah.
The right to get your medical bills paid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. If you're fortunate to have personal coverage, again, you have to understand that motorcycle coverage does not include no fault coverage, which pays all bills if you were in an automobile. This is distinct. Motorcycle policies may have a medical payment coverage aspect to it if you pay an additional premium, but that becomes very limited. In today's day and age, you have a diagnostic test. You go to the hospital, you're coming out of there with a large hospital bill. If you need an MRI, these are very expensive tests. It can eat into a medical payment coverage, which is normally very minimal, $1,000, $1,500, $2,500. You better know what your coverage is before you sign anything with anybody, even with your lawyer. Your lawyer's got to know the kind of medical coverage you have to know how much is going to be covered and how much is going to go into a lawsuit.
Well, what about the people that come and they say, look, I did sign this. I signed the release and the check, but I only did so because the person who showed up at my door, this adjuster from the insurance company, said, the payments of medical bills and like future costs and things like that's a separate document. That's something really separate. So you just have to sign this first, and then the rest of it is going to be taken care of. And they say, okay.
Now you're dealing with an aspect, in essence, of fraud. That's what you're really talking about. You were defrauded into signing a document. Okay. You're dealing with major ethical issues here from the insurance representative. People will lose their licenses for this. But again, that goes to what the proof is. It's very easy after the fact to go to an attorney and say, I didn't know what I was signing, and he told me this and he told me this. Proof is another thing. If you're educated, if you read and write English, if the document is in relatively simple English, you're going to have a hard time explaining that you thought it was something else. And you got to protect yourself from that. Again, why take the chance? Make a phone call. Get the proper legal advice. Never, ever sign without advice of counsel. Never. That's with a capital N.
I think that's great advice, and I certainly would go with this. And I think it's important we get this information out to the public. Hopefully we'll get a lot of listeners on this episode. But I see you're working, and you're at your desk there, and I'm here in my home office. I got my guitars in the background when I want to break. So, but I think that's all we're going to have time for in this episode. But before I go, please, I just want to ask everybody, do me a favor, please like this, subscribe, share. And if you have a problem, any kind of legal problem, call me, call Steve. Okay. And I'm going to display the number here, or better yet, just go to ridingcounsel.com, click the call, or you want to send an email, you want to chat, you want to text, whatever it is. We're really easy to get in touch with. But until that time, until the next episode, I want everybody out there to ride safe, ride crazy, ride wild, stay free, but do so legally, everybody. All right, take care, everybody.
Take care, Rich.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Riding Counsel with Richard Jaffe. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the ride, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your fellow riders. Until next time, keep the rubber side down and ride safe.